Jay's Tunnel here. Today, we're gonna be talking to you about the man-o-war. And one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually pick this thing up. I've got a piece of trash I found on the beach over here. I'm gonna scoop it up and I'm gonna put it in the water so that we can get a closer look. Now, you might have heard these things called a blue bottle. Why? Because you can easily see that it's got a blue top on it. It's actually a gas-filled bladder on top of there that has carbon monoxide and air. Now, there's actually 4 parts. This isn't a true jellyfish. So true jellyfish, what you have is one organism and it kind of pulsates and it can go through the water that way. This cannot do that. And so it's actually 4 different organisms living together. We call those polyps. It has a top polyp, which is the gas-filled bladder. It's got the tentacles. Then it has feeding parts to it, and then a reproductive polyp. So it's got those 4 parts that make up this one animal that lives together so it can survive. Now this one, look, it's actually moving. Now the only part you'd ever want to touch on this, and maybe not even that, is this bladder. Because if you touch this, it's fine, like if it's in the water and stuff. And look, it's I don't know if you can see this, but it's like blowing up whenever I touch it. But it could actually, since it's been washed up on the beach, it could actually have tentacles on top of it, so it could sting you. Now, I have made a video like this before a couple years ago, and after I made the video, I stood up and I was stung all over my belly. And the reason for that is because, let me show you this. You see all these tentacles? So all these tentacles right here, they wash all over the sand, and the nematocysts, which are the stinging cells, can actually spread all around here. So even though you say, oh, there's the animal, you know, I can't get stung, you actually can. And the sting is pretty bad. It's by these little stinging cells that are located all over the tentacles here. And they're called nematocysts, and they're spring-loaded. And so they shoot out whenever they touch you. And it puts out a venom to you. And man, I'll tell you what, it is painful. And the only way to really reduce the amount of pain is 2 things. Is you can put vinegar on it or warm water. Okay, so I can already feel the stings on my belly from laying down right here. Obviously the water has rubbed all these tentacles around, so some of the stinging cells come off. And actually this thing can sting for more than just on here. So it's laid up here, it's still alive, it's kind of fresh, but even days after this, those tentacles, they will start drying up, but it can still sting. So even though it looks like it's dead or something like that, don't touch it. Now I got a little piece of, it looks like a broken bucket I found over on the beach, higher up on the beach. I'm gonna try to scoop this thing up. And the other thing I found is spaghetti monsters. I found about 6 of them just in this little area. So I put those in here. So let's see what we can do. Look at those tentacles coming up on there. Whee, man. Okay. Let's see if I can get out to where it could float here. Get some of the, oh man, this is actually really pretty. I'm gonna give y'all some close-up shots here. Now you definitely wouldn't want to touch this afterwards either, because now that's contaminated, and I'm sure that there are tentacles all over that. Okay, so let's look here. Let me see if I can get the right angle. So you got your gas-filled float up here. Now, you might be wondering, ooh, look at that. Look at the colors, blue, green, purple, and you just see the massive amount of tentacles down there. Let's see if I can get some of the sand to fall out of there so we can get a real good look at this. These are found all over the world. Look at it, it's kind of moving around. It's got its muscles in there that can make it shift. Now this top part is supposed to act like a sail so that it uses the ocean currents. Look, there's a spaghetti model, spaghetti monster right next to it there. It uses the ocean currents and the wind to be able to move around the ocean. Now these tentacles, they only look like they're about 1 foot long, right? Well, a man-o-war this size will actually have tentacles that could go out maybe 60 feet. 90 feet is what the real big ones can go out to. So if you're ever out in the water and you see this man-o-war, and you're going to want to avoid the bubble, part for sure, because there's tentacles under that. But know this, whichever way the ocean current is going, those tentacles will be behind it. And depending on the size of the animal, they could be up to 90 feet behind it. So that is something scary to think about, right? Jeez. Okay. What are some other things here? What do they eat? They eat fish. And let me see if I can put this down over here. Man, I guess I touched some of the tentacles because my fingers are... Those things don't feel good, and it can hurt for 3 to, how can we put this here? It can hurt from 1 to 3 hours. Wow. Some other things. They feed on fish. So you can imagine if little fish swimming around in there. The tentacles and the venom actually kill the fish. So, and they have hundreds of mouths. So they can grab those fish, consume them whole, and then it goes to the digestive polyp and then feeds on it. What eats on these? Okay, loggerhead sea turtles is probably one of their main organisms that feed on, the main animals. Blue dragons, we've talked about blue dragons before. Those are the nudibranchs. They're the sea slugs. They feed on them. They feed on the tentacles. Oh, sea snail, that was the other one. So lots of times, especially in the springtime, we'll get this influx of different animals coming in because of the southeast winds, just because of the time of the year. So we'll get the man-o-wars, blue buttons, by-the-wind sailors, these spaghetti monsters here, but also the purple storm snail. And those things, they blow bubbles up to where they can float, and then they can feed on animals like this. Now, one thing that you're going to see that it does is it actually has like this muscles to it, and it can spin around, and it can also like lift its bubble up, and it can try to direct which way the ocean currents and wind is taking it with that. And so I'll try to get a close-up look here of it spinning around. You will see where its tentacles are actually pulling up. So if it feels that there is something that it can eat, it will pull up to where it can go up to the digestive system. So these can live for about a year. And they can travel thousands of miles. If they get in the right current and the right wind conditions and everything, they can travel for thousands of miles. So my number one thing for y'all watching this is they are beautiful. I always take photos and everything. I suggest you do the same when you see them. Leave them alone. Don't try to step on them, pop them, because they will sting. So with that, that's it for this episode of Beachcombing. Hope you enjoyed the Siphonophore, the blue bottle, also called the man-o-war. Bye.